video as well. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, clap. Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. There we go. We're in. Really? Faith, it's lovely. Well, I see, this is kind of fake. I'm saying, oh, Faith, it's lovely to see you. We've just been chatting for the last 10 minutes. So it was lovely to see you 10 minutes ago. It's still lovely to see you now. Do you want to, I guess we've kind of been friends for a couple of years through Twitch, through the lockdown and all of that. And lots of different people kind of got to know each other through streaming on Twitch. And I think the first thing I saw you do, and this isn't your game, was playing Phantasy Star Online on the GameCube.
Play it all the time. Yeah, it's probably my favorite game. It's hard. You can't say you got a favorite game, but yes. So me and some very people that love our old RPGs, we still play Phantasy Star online today. To this day, we have the same guild now for I think close to 15 years. Still playing it.
I love it. When did you first? And again, this isn't the game you're talking about, but you said this is. But when did you first discover Phantasy Star Online? And you're playing the GameCube version because I was Dreamcast.
Yeah, so I first played it on the Dreamcast.
Right.
I still do play it on the Dreamcast, and we also play that one online. The reason why we play the GameCube one today is three main reasons. One, it's actually easier to get it connected to the internet. The Dreamcast is very fiddly, and you need contraptions, and you need to burn discs and do all this faff. But the GameCube, you just need the broadband adapter, plug it straight into your router, and you can get on just with. You don't have to mod any equipment or do anything fussy. Other reasons is it's got twice as many levels as the Dreamcast one and more equipment, and it also has these amazing cool keyboards, which we get to know. So this is a GameCube controller, and then you can type.
Look at that
here to talk to people. Oh, it's brilliant.
Faith, I'm just going to stop because my thing isn't recording. I'm so sorry. Let me just stop. What is going on there? Faith, I'm just going to stop because my thing isn't recording. That's recording totally the wrong mic. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Start again.
What are you recording from? Oh, you're recording from. Oh, I'm glad I spotted that then. That should be that. Look, let me just see. What an idiot. All right, we're going to start again. So
should I delete everything? Should we start the whole thing
Start again and we'll do a 1, 2, 3 clap. Jeez, I'm so sorry.
No.
I'm supposed to be the professional.
No. Honestly, these things, let me delete all this. Let me get right back to the start. Can I get back to the start? It's only a couple of minutes. Oh, come on, Audacity. Bloody nightmare.
It's useful and it's free and it does everything I need, but it can be a little bit clunky sometimes.
It's a bit slow. It's a bit 2006, isn't it? Come on, 1 minute, all the way back.
That's all right.
I know there's probably a quicker way of doing this, but I've never found it. All the way back. Come on, 20 seconds, 21, 15 seconds. I know I should be able to select all of it, shouldn't I? And just do it. Right, I'm recording again.
I'm recording again, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. I'm wondering how to start now, Faith, because A, we've been chatting for about 10 minutes, and B, we recorded about 5 minutes of this before I went, and I'm supposed to be the professional, with 25 years of radio and stuff, before I went, oh my God, I'm not recording. It's recording the wrong thing. I did that once. I had an interview with Mark Kermode, the film critic who I love, and he came into the studio and I interviewed him for an hour, and I sent the audio to Eloise, who was producing it, and she went, Iain, what was wrong with Mark's microphone? I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I can hear you, but then when he answers, I hadn't turned his microphone on, Faith. Hadn't turned his microphone on. Now, well, I was going to say, but by the way, dear listener, this is Faith, known as Retro Faith, writer, broadcaster, streamer. All of these things are true. Have you ever had a technical cock up where you've just gone, oh man, I wish I could start the day again?
Yeah, I do the odd YouTube video, and I had it wasn't quite an interview with someone, but I had done this entire script and everything that was about 20 minutes long, and I'm not the best at recording. I hate my own voice and things, so I'm just push record, get the whole lot down, and I'll edit it when I get back. And I spent like 2 hours having this thing on record, think right now I'll come back against that tomorrow. And exactly what you've just had, the same thing. It was recording something completely different. It was recording like the webcam or something, and the voice was just already muffled. And I was like, I can't believe it. So yes, it does happen. It does happen a lot. And streaming as well. Streaming, there is just constant settings and clickings, and someone saying I can't quite hear you on the stream, or someone saying can't quite see you. And yeah, every stream there is always some sort of, usually audio.
I'm just reminded, I was lucky enough to interview Jeff Goldblum once, and I was so nervous. And we went and we had a digital recorder. And of course, always check the batteries, always. And I hadn't. And I saw about 3/4 of the way through the interview, it stopped recording. And I didn't know at what point. So I didn't want to say, oh, Jeff, I'm really sorry. Can you just give me 2 minutes? So what I did while he was talking was I got my phone out and put it onto voice notes and just started recording on that. Luckily, we'd missed about 2 minutes. That was it. But it's, and the streaming, what people don't know, they watch Twitch streamers and YouTubers and they think, oh, must be really easy. It's not easy. It's a nightmare setting all that stuff up, isn't it?
Yeah, if you could see behind what's behind me with lights and contraptions and cables and monitors, and all I can see is a sea of cables, console. I mean, it's doing games as well, so consoles, microphones. I've got 2 webcams. There's lights. I've got 2 PCs here. It's that to get a half decent stream these days. The amount of tech that goes into it is crazy. I've got like 4 different devices that allow me to record my games and stuff, and each one's got its own little quirks and needs. But yeah, no, I love it though. I wouldn't change it. I'm a big tech head. I'm actually today, as we're talking, I was actually in the middle of reviewing a new bit of hardware, and I just love it. So for me, while it is causing lots of headaches, once it all gets working and you see it, you kind of feel like, yeah, this is great. It's like being in the future.
Well, now, how did you get in? Because you were just telling me, maybe we'll talk about it. You were on you go on the Jeremy Vine show to talk about gaming and gadgets. How did you turn a hobby into, a job?
I won't take too much time, but it's a pretty good story. So about just over 4 years ago, the end of August 2019, I was in an office job working in London, like in the city, for a financial firm, and I'd done it for like over 10 years. I'd always, like 15 years, I'd worked in offices doing that kind of admin, customer focused work, all that sort of stuff. And I just woke up one day and thought, I can't do this with my life anymore, and I'm just going to quit. And I don't know where it come from. I just decided to quit, and people thought I was having like a mental breakdown.
Wow.
Anyway, got through the quitting, and when people asked me what you're going to do, I just sort of, nonchalantly said, "Oh, I'm gonna follow in Dave Perry and Jazz Rignall's footsteps to become a game journalist." And they were like, "Okay, you sure you're okay?" Anyway, it turned out I was a little bit depressed and I was down, and went to the doctors, did all that. That's like another story. But then when I kind of come out of it, around the start, just before lockdown started, I had this kind of idea that let's start writing about video games and doing like YouTube videos, like reviewing old games and doing a bit of, just starting to look what's out there. How could I make, because I knew I had to get a job, and I thought I don't want to go back to do another office job. I just can't do that anymore, that 9 to 5 rat race nonsense. So I just started writing, and I made a little blog up, like a website thing, and just started writing. And before long, I had a couple of people that were like, "We'll pay you to do that." And I was like, "Oh my God, okay." And then and then randomly, about 2 years ago, the BBC got in contact with me saying, "Oh, we're starting to look at doing stories around video games, because we realize it's something that they don't really do. Can we add you to like a freelance pool of game journalists?" So I do some work for them as well. So when it's normally on the radio. I've been on the BBC News a couple of times for small bits, but it's normally when it's there's a big news story, like say the Harry Potter game came out and there was all that contention around J.K. Rowling, stuff like that, or there was a big report done by the NHS about the addiction for computer games and teenagers and things. So I normally get dragged in to do that. Mostly the Jeremy Vine show, some other shows as well, just local radios and stuff. And then luckily Retro Gamer, who you obviously write
great
for,
magazine,
Iain, as well. That was like my dream. My dream was I'm going to get an article in there.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
And it's now I have articles like pretty much every month in there. So yes, it was a whirlwind. And do you know what? the question you asked was, how did you go about turning a hobby into a job? And it was just through sheer perseverance and a belief.
Yeah.
My name is Faith, and that means to believe, to have faith in things. And I just had faith in myself, and I just thought I can do this. I'm never going to be a millionaire from it, but I like it, and it feels strange, like sitting at my desk at home, writing about something I care about so much, and then seeing, months later when it gets printed, or if it's something for a YouTube or a broadcasting company or something, seeing how people react to it.
Yeah.
It's so much more satisfying than all the much money I could go and make sitting in an office job at some bank or some insurance company or whatever. And just, and it's fulfilling. It's fulfilling. And I would say to anyone, if you've got any sort of dreams, or if you've got a hobby that you're really good at, woodworking or anything at all, anything, or painting, or I don't know, crochet, just give it a go. Give it a go at trying to turn it into a money, because the rewards are infinite.
I also think the reward of giving it a go and maybe not making it is also really, really important. That thing of, oh God, I wish I'd tried that. I never gave that a chance. Giving it a go. And not everyone's going to make money out of it. I've been so blessed in my career. I wanted to be on the telly and the radio, and somehow I got there. Bit of talent, quite a lot of luck. It happened. I had to give it a go. I had the thought of, and I've worked in offices and I've worked in shops, the thought of doing that every day, for me, I just could not get my head around it. And that's not to demean those people that do those jobs.
No.
I could not get my head around it. And I got depressed at the thought of me doing that every day.
And there are some people that really like the safety, if that's the right word, of an office job or working for a company. But for me, while I enjoyed all that stuff, and I do now live like month to month almost, like where's my money coming from? Because it's all freelance. Like I have very, very, very few contracted work in place, or if it is contracted work, it's like 1 or 2 bits a month or whatever. So not knowing where your money's coming from is very scary. And I was just in a fortunate enough position that I was able to just quit the day job and go for it. It's not perfect. There is a lot of sides to it where you end up doing work that you don't get paid for instance, or you end up doing lots of favors for people.
Favors.
Which
it'll be good exposure.
It'd be good exposure and all this sort of, and you're like, oh yeah, that's great, but I do need to get my beans on toast on the plate today.
It's interesting because I've had a similar thing. I did TV and radio for 25 years. And for the last few years of it, I was really, really unhappy. And I couldn't work out why, because it's what I'd worked towards. It was well paid, but I was miserable. And it took losing a job during lockdown to go, actually, I think I want to retrain. And now I work as a counselor and as a therapist. And now, I've been so blessed in my career. I'm living month to month now, and money is significantly tighter. I am so much happier than I was for the last 3, 4, 5 years of my broadcasting career.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, for all of the wonderful benefits of having a stable, steady, safety job or whatever, I was just miserable. It was just going in, clicking the same buttons on that same keyboard on that same desk every single day, and speaking to the same people over and over about the same old things day in, day out. Different customers, but just same old thing. And I just thought to myself, I think what happened to me was I just woke up and went, am I really going to do this till I retire? Like sit under these dim lights, fluorescent lights, staring at these screens, logging into these computers and hearing that phone tingle every 10 minutes. And I just thought, no. And I went for it. And I'll stand by what I did. I mean, money is tight, and it's getting better as I progress and my career builds. But I know I'm never going to have anywhere near as much money as I did working at a bank. But I don't care. You know what? I don't care. I used to think money and safety and having savings was everything in the world. Now I just couldn't care less. I'm just like, just live life.
I can feed my kids and I can pay the mortgage. That's it. That's all I need.
Life.
So you said you get called in, like Jeremy Vine and some other shows like that, if there's a big news story about addiction to gaming and violence and stuff. Have you ever been called in because there's been a positive story about gaming? You have?
Luckily, the last one, which I did on Friday, was there was a big 90s extravaganza on BBC Radio over the weekend, and mostly for music, mostly like 90s music, like
Yeah.
Britpop and Blur and Oasis and all that sort of stuff. But also, Jeremy Vine decided for his show, or his producers decided for his show, that they wanted to do like a celebration, lots of things 90s. So they were looking at things like videotapes and video games and magazines and the TVs and stuff. So it's more sort of around the culture of the 90s and
Yeah.
like fashion and things. And so there they got me in to go and show for Jeremy Vine some video games. We had some mixed results, but he was happy and
Did
he
he?
got to experience it.
I can imagine him play. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen his bicycle videos where it's him pointing out bad drivers, and good to him, good for him. But I can just imagine him doing that with Sonic. No, 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 no! I can't believe it. I would love to see that.
Yeah, sadly, he was more interested in just speaking to me about the culture of video games in the 90s, about how it was kind of a bit of a golden era and video games kind of grew up a bit in the 90s and things. So, but he didn't get to, yeah, we sadly, due to tech problems, again, back to this idea of tech, I didn't have enough time to get it all working on their very modern displays, a Mega Drive. I tried, we got some sound out of it, but only a flickering picture, sadly. He didn't get to try it, but he said he would try again soon. And,
I think it's, sorry to interrupt, I think it's important to celebrate the positive stories around gaming. For example, during lockdown, gosh, so when was it, 2019 lockdown or 2020? I can't remember.
March 2020.
Blimey. So my kids would have been 8 and 10. And gaming was incredible because they weren't seeing their friends, but if they were playing Fortnite or something like that, they got the headsets on, they got the microphones, they've got a gang of friends. It was their way of socializing. And I kind of, once they'd done their schoolwork and stuff, I kind of let them play as much video games as they wanted, because it was the only way they could interact and talk to their friends. And stuff, I genuinely, I think it kept them sane and grounded for a lot of lockdown. Stuff like that doesn't get mentioned very often.
No, I did bring this up when there was a story. The NHS ran a report on the amount of teenagers they're getting in with problems around. And it started with problems around the teenagers who couldn't concentrate in school and all this sort of stuff. And when they started breaking it all down, they realized there was this whole other problem of actual addiction to video games. And that in itself is a thing.
Yeah.
I remember as a young gamer, I used to get really distraught if the Mega Drive or whatever was taken away from me, not realizing back then that it was actually because I was addicted to it. But I do always, when I do those stories, like, yeah, there is the flamboyancy of this ain't bad, let's talk about it. Especially, Jeremy Vine show, he wants all that conflict. But I always make the point of, exactly like you said, there's so many benefits that far outweigh the negatives to video games. Yes, there are problems with them. They can be addictive. They can be bad for your eyes and that. But then all the stuff that comes along with it, like better cognitive skills, socializing, especially now with online gaming, as you say. So there's kids that might have a hard time of it at school, but when they're online with their other sort of geeky friends, if that's the phrase we want to use, they can express themselves and be happy. It also gets people to speak about art and sound and music, especially these days, with the graphics are so amazing and there's so much accessibility to making your own games and things. So I think it's good for just people's overall knowledge of technology and where these things come from. So yes, I would like it if I was brought more on to do things like that positive, but let's be honest, it's like that old adage, isn't it? It's like, the conflict will sell more than the positive niceties.
Part of this podcast is when I invite guests on, and a few of them said, what do you mean by retro? I never define it. I have my idea of what is retro to me as a 50-year-old man. I never I never say what I think it should be. I never define it. That was the word I couldn't think of, because it's different for everyone else. And I'm wondering what the word retro gaming means to you, Faith.
It means a game that is old enough that it's not instantly accessible today. So for me, something like we're going to talk about the BBC, for instance, would be a retro games machine, because not everyone's going to have one. You have to track one down, you have to get it working, learn how it works. Stuff like the Nintendo or Mega Drive and N64 and consoles like that would a retro to me. And I think my limit for me really is it still accessible? So games, say like if we move a bit forward then to more modern consoles like that have things like HDMI outputs like the Xbox 360 and
Yeah.
PS3, I struggle to think of those as retro, even though
Okay.
they're like nearly 20 years old now, those
Yeah.
consoles, because a lot of them still have like, if I loaded up my 360 now or my PS3 now, I can still go online to like the PlayStation or the Xbox servers and download games and pay for them on there. So for me, retro is when something is old enough that the manufacturer doesn't support it anymore, or there's not really any new games or licensed games coming out for it. So for me, it'll be up to say like the most modern retro game console that makes sense to me would be like the original Xbox. Anything back from that, I'd say is retro. I'd say things like the 360 and the PS3 and the Wii are slowly getting there, but you can still kind of get those online. So.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the Wii U, which came out after the Wii, you can't get online. I think they've
now
shut
been closed.
everything
that
down.
one has, but they're still kind of making games for it in a roundabout way. I mean, they're not making. I don't mean Nintendo are producing loads of games, but people. It's still current. You can still go and buy new controllers, for instance, for the Wii U. I
read a great story yesterday that last year Nintendo registered they sold one Wii U in America. I love that. I don't know how they got that stat, but
wow,
I love that.
That is amazing. Just one. I bet there was a lot more than just one. But yeah, maybe new. But that's what I'm saying. So that technically, and Nintendo still support that console in the sense that if your Wii U breaks, you can technically still send it back to Nintendo today and get it repaired. So for me, that's still a current console, even if they're not making games for it. But yeah, it's difficult. Is it retro? I mean.
Yeah,
old games.
yeah, it is difficult, and I don't think it's that clear cut. And I'm always interested in what people bring and what they say.
Yeah,
was gaming important for you growing up? Because it kept me sane when we got our first computer in about 1981, a Dragon 32. Not a great computer, but I loved it. Suddenly, I had like I don't think it's an exaggeration. I had like a purpose. I found my thing. It was my thing. And I'm curious, was gaming important for you growing up?
I've got a very similar story. So yes, I first experienced gaming when I was very young, like 2 or 3 on like a Pong machine. What one it was, God knows. And then I was about 3, maybe 4. And my older brother got a Commodore 64. Ooh. I remember it was like called the Nightmare Pack or something. It had like a purple box. I still remember very vividly. And there's I was a little bit teeny tiny bit too young though to have like the cognitive responses to be able to be successful with it. But then by the time I was 7 and we've been playing the Commodore 64 and I was getting a bit better at it, but I wasn't majorly interested. Then this little guy come into my life, Christmas 1991, Sonic the Hedgehog.
I should just say very quickly, if you're listening to this, you can't see. Faith has an amazing room that I'm deeply envious of. I can see all kinds of different games. I can see merch. I can see some Dreamcast stuff at the back. I can see some original PlayStation games. And there is a lot of Sonic stuff there.
Yeah, if you'd see my living room is a whole shrine to Sonic. It's like one whole wall is spread to and forth with like IKEA furniture just filled to the brim, like top to bottom. Yeah, people see it and go, are you sure you're okay? But no, Christmas 91, Sonic comes out. And as you say about the purpose, I got really good at that game really, really quickly. And I mean, to the point now where like, I can speed run it and hit world records and stuff. And my friends would gather around going, oh my God, like, you're playing the Sonic game again. And it was like this magical thing that entered in my life. I never really had a purpose. But then all of a sudden it was like, I'm good at video games. Yeah. And I love this Sega Mega Drive and Sonic, and I'm just going to keep playing it. And I've never stopped. It's the only thing that's been constant in my entire life, apart from like family, like immediate family and stuff, has been Sonic the Hedgehog. I can categorically say that since the day I first played it in Boots. Do you remember when Boots used to sell video games?
Oh, Faith, I used to. The pattern was Mum would go shopping in Slough every Saturday, and she would leave me in Boots, and I would. You'd hope to get on the Spectrum. If that was busy, you'd hope for the Commodore. If that was busy, the BBC. You didn't want to touch the MSX or the Oric, and if they were busy, you'd go to Smith's next door. But that was it. You'd spend 2 or 3 hours there. Mum would come and go, right, we've got everything, we're going home.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I played Sonic in Boots. I remember it very clearly. I was just turned 7, because it was 1991.
Right.
So that would have been some point after June 23rd when Sonic came out, and then randomly for Christmas, I didn't ask for it, none of us did, but me and my brothers, we got a Mega Drive with Sonic 1 and a few other games, and oh my god, it was incredible. That moment, that was it for me. I've loved video games ever since that day.
Well, which is why I was surprised when I asked you on. I thought, well, Faith will do something on Sonic. I was so surprised by your choice and by the machine you wanted to play it on. So you have picked JetPac, the BBC Micro version. I'm just reading this. So this is a game by Ultimate Play the Game. Came out on the Spectrum and the VIC-20 in 1983. And it came out on the BBC Micro 1984. Ultimate, well, I'm sure we'll be covering more of their games. They did some great stuff. Oh. It's the first game to be released by them. Do you want to describe it?
Yeah, sure. I've also got my notes. So yes, exactly as you said, it's notable for being the very first game that Ultimate Play the Game released. And anyone, I'm probably asking people here to chew on their own teeth, but Ultimate Play the Game became Rare, which are now an incredibly important video game developer, and Chris and Tim Stamper, who developed the company, they are like, they're absolute legends.
And that is wild that it was a company like that. A lot of those companies from the early 80s, once the SNES and all that stuff came in, they went bust. So it's amazing that the Ultimate made the transition and kept going and getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, they were clever because very early on, in Japan, anyone that doesn't know, the original Nintendo was called the Famicom, or Family Computer, and the Stamper brothers got hold of one early. Right. So while all the rest of the UK developers we'll carry on with our Commodore and Spectrum games, they were secretly behind the scenes developing games for that.
Brilliant.
And then slightly later, for the Game Boy. So they were the only UK people that really had any access to that kind of equipment. And before they knew it, but by the time the 90s come along, they're pretty much a first party developer for Nintendo. And then it all gets, and the history is there. But that's why this game's significant, because it's their very first game, and it was also a banger. The reason why it's also very notable is it was the first game they released, and it got the Game of the Year in the old Golden Joystick Awards. That's how good it was. So the fact that Nintendo snapped them up and they started looking beyond the UK scene of microcomputers was something that it kind of, if they hadn't bothered to do it, if they hadn't bothered to look what Japan were doing, we might not have never had some classic games that they
a lot of those companies weren't very far-sighted. They were very much in the moment and thinking, well, this is going to go on forever and ever and ever. And of course, as we've learned, consoles have a lifespan and then they go. The game itself, you play this dude. I don't know if he has a name. I bet he has a name. Well, go on.
His name is before we come on, I was doing some research. So I didn't know this. I played this game so much, but I didn't realize. So in JetPac, the guy's name is actually Jetman.
Okay.
I looked it up. I was like, that can't be right, but it is. So his name is actually Jetman, and he's exploring planets. So it's what we call a single screen game.
Yeah.
And the idea of every level is that you've got to build your rocket ship and then fill it with fuel, at the same time avoiding all the alien nasties, enemies flying around while you can shoot them. And then every 8 levels it resets.
Right.
So you go back to the start of the game.
I never got that far. I never got past 3 or 4, I think.
When we said we'd play it, I got to level 3 once,
right,
by the skin of my teeth.
Yeah.
And I will talk more about the game when we get into it. But yes, it's a very important game. Number one, it's an excellent video game, especially for the time.
Yeah.
For reasons we'll probably go into. And secondly, it was the first game from Ultimate that would become
and it's beautiful. These big chunky graphics, really, really bright colors. The dude, he's so responsive and flies around brilliantly. So you got to pick up the bits of the rocket, drop it, and then pick it up with fuel. Why this game? Why did you pick this?
2 reasons. One, I knew you were a real big fan of the BBC.
Love it. Yeah.
Anyway, I know it's your favourites. I thought, well, I'll pick something on that because then it'll give us something else to talk about. And I also thought I just wanted something far out there that wasn't Sonic, because not to take it back to talking about me, but yes, a lot of people know me for Sonic. And
this is all about you, Faith. Don't be embarrassed.
I'm just trying to show that I actually have other interests in the video game sphere as well as it. But do you know, I'll tell you what, when you said pick a game, I thought, well, I'll pick something on the BBC, and then I realized this was the first game when I really thought about it that I played on the BBC.
Oh,
And I didn't play a BBC back in the day though. I was a bit too young for that. I played one probably well into the 90s, when I remember my mum, who used to work at a college, whenever they used to update their equipment, a computer or whatever, she'd always bring the old crap, if I can say that, back to our house because she knew I liked it all. So I had a BBC, which I've used in primary school probably a couple of times, for various things. And all of a sudden I had games on. And for me, because I like video games, I set it up and I got it working. And this was the first game I played, JetPac. And it sort of opened up this world of like Ultimate. I was like, oh, then went on from there. So that's why I picked it, because it was the first game I played on your favorite machine.
The problem I have with a lot of these games, these old games, it's too tough. It's too tough.
It's well hard.
It's unforgiving. So level 1, okay, yeah, I can do it. Level 2, like you say, I played it again. I got to 3 once, and it's just like, oh, come on, man, give me a break, please. Unforgiving.
I really wanted to, because when I was reading into it, I realized that because it resets itself after 8 levels. It also turns out, I don't know if you remember when you were playing, but you build the rocket on the first level.
Yeah.
And then when you come to the second level, you've just got to collect the fuel again. And I totally forgotten about all this. So then, so for levels 2, 3, and 4, you just collect the fuel and then jump back in the spaceship. But then by level 4, when you land the spaceship again, it breaks apart again. So you've got to start it again. And then on the 8th level, the whole thing resets. So you got 8 levels that keep flipping out. I couldn't get past the 3rd one. I got there once or maybe twice onto the 3rd level. And I think it was just once actually and I just died instantly. And I was just like, but it wasn't because the game doesn't work properly. It's just because I think when I look back and play these old games, I just think this is why gaming is great, because it's a true challenge. Games today are just way too easy. Like I've got the new we're going back to Sonic. I got the new Sonic game yesterday, and I'm already halfway through it.
Yeah,
I'm literally halfway through. I've seen it playing this morning, going, I've got to slow down because I'm going to just have this finished within 24 hours.
But saying that, and I'm a big retro fan, but I also like modern video games, right? And also, I'd like to admit, some of these old retro games, some of them are rubbish. They don't stand the test of time.
When you play them today, you're just like, you're just thinking, I used to think this game was good.
And a lot of retro people may not acknowledge that. I do. Some of the issues I have with some of the modern games, right? Why is a game 100 hours long? And also, I remember playing Red Dead Redemption 2, right? And I said to a friend, I've been playing for about 4 hours. It's really boring. He said, you got to give it 12 hours. What? No, I'm not going to give a game. It's like watching a TV series. You get to episode 5. You got to get to episode 8. No, make it good. Make it good at the start. And stuff like this is dead simple. You know what you got to do. If you want to play it 15, 20 minutes, boom, that's it. You're done.
That's it. When I was playing it and just jotting down my thoughts as I was playing it, I did use the word simplicity, and I was thinking, is that doing it a disservice? But actually, you've actually just made me feel that I'm actually got confidence in my own word there, because you're right. Some of the, I as a games reviewer, I turn down those big games all the time, those 50 hours. We're on the blurb, they're boasting that it's 75 hours of gameplay. I instantly go, no, I'm not going to sit there for 75 hours to complete a game just to write a 800-word review on it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Unless it's some big publication that wants to throw loads of money at that time. You've got to think that's like 2 weeks worth of work.
Yeah.
70 hours playing, because you've got to try and finish as much of the game as you can. And in general, it's not an attention span thing, it's a skill thing for me. For me, video games is about getting a high score, getting the fastest time, beating my mate, and getting being able to lord it over him. When it's a game that, as you say, like Red Dead Redemption 2, where there's just 5 hours of story at the start, I just think, if I want that, I'll watch a film.
Yes.
Or I'll watch a TV show or something. I don't need. I hate all these. There was one recently, The Last of Us. Last 10 years, everyone rages like the best video game ever. I've tried to play it a few times now, and within like an hour or two, I'm just like, I've seen more story and more people talking than I've actually pushed buttons.
Yeah. And that's not to knock it. I haven't played The Last of Us. A lot of people love it. And this is not one of those podcasts where old games are the best and new games are... Oh, no, not at all. New games are brilliant, you know, and they're potentially better. I am coming... It's almost impossible to say what is the best video game of all time. I am slowly coming round to the idea that the greatest game of all time is Pac-Man. And because...
Miss Pac-Man.
Miss Pac-Man's good. I'm more of an OG. I'm an OG, okay, and I tell you why, because if every time I go and play Pac-Man, and there's an arcade near me that has it, I look for the button, and there isn't a button. It's just a stick, and that's it. It's just a stick, and it's really, really simple what you've got to do. And you can go and I can never have one game on there, but you can go, right, I want to play Pac-Man for 20 minutes. Boom, you're done. That's it. And also, I can get onto screen 4, and my kids think I'm a god for being able to do that. They don't know that's not great.
Talking about Pac-Man, I went to a game show last week called EGX, which is a big lots of modern games. You know, see all the new Mario games and things like that, and all Call of Duties and all that sort of stuff. But every year they always have a little section in the corner, which is just like old arcade cabinets and a couple of old consoles set up. First thing I do when I get there every year is I go straight to the Pac-Man machine. I get the highest score I can. Right, and then I'll come back by the end of the day, and 3 years running, no one's beat my score yet.
What can I ask? This is a very personal question.
Yeah.
If it's too personal, tell me to get lost. What do you type in to the high score table? Do you put
ace?
You go for ace.
AC. I don't know why. I think I saw my older brother do it because he used to like his old fighter pilots. You know, called Ace. You know, Ace. Like
yeah. It's a cool name. Ace is one of the coolest names you can get.
I must have when I was very young, playing Commodores and stuff. I must have just seen my older brother type in ACE, and it just stuck. And I've always typed that in ever since. Funny. I don't know. What do you type in?
I've got one of two, right? My full name, Lee is not, well, it is my last name now legally, but my full name was Iain Lee Rugby. So I will put ILR. But the reason I ask is because when I played it today, I got the high score. And I put in FUK, and I was reminded that that's what I used to do. I used to love at the local swimming baths playing Defender or wherever it was, putting in those 3 letters, thinking, yeah, I'm the big guy. I just put a swear in. Isn't that ridiculous? But at the age, I would do it at the age of 10, 40 years later, in the privacy of my own home, I'm still doing it, Faith. I'm still doing it.
Isn't that what makes gaming so great? The great thing about video gaming is, unlike TV and films and possibly music, you're interacting with it. You can express yourself through it, whereas more sort of placid entertainments, if you like, you just get to absorb it and then think about it and have an emotional reaction. With video games, you have to interact and actually do it and make it your own world. So I think that's great. Why shouldn't you put swear words on the high scoreboard?
It's terrible.
We've all been there.
I looked up JetPac on eBay, and normally with stuff like this, you can find loads of copies. I could not see one copy of it. Couldn't find a copy of it anywhere. And I'm surprised. I remember it came in a really lovely, like sort of bigger textured cardboard box. It was beautifully presented. It's not on eBay at all, which is strange for such a popular game.
You'd think, because it sold over 300,000 units.
Wow,
was released. I think that's just on the Spectrum as well. It was one of the biggest selling Spectrum games of all time. Which is, 300,000 by today's standards is a drop in the ocean for most games, but that at the time, especially just in the UK scene where it was released for the Spectrum, and then later like the BBC and stuff. It's an incredible achievement. But I find that strange that there aren't any. I think maybe because it is genuinely one of the best games of that time, the early to mid 80s. Maybe everyone that collects those games probably has a copy. I'm looking for it now and it's not there. That's the weirdest. How are you spelling it though? Because I realized when I was looking at this, JetPac's got 2 spellings. So you've got the JET space PAC. And then it's all one word as well. So some publications, and even on Rare's own website, there was like this disparity with the space in the name.
No, not there under any of those spellings.
I find that strange. At JetPac, you can't buy a copy on like a Spectrum on the eBay.
Some of those old cassettes that people chance their arm and they put them up for £100. It's like, get out of town. Faith, before we go, is there anything you've not said about this game or gaming that you would like to communicate to the thousands of people listening to us right now?
I do. I found that I've got some tips. Is that good? Playing
Tips
it.
and
So
tips.
yeah,
Maybe we should do like cheats and hacks and stuff at some point. But
yeah.
tips are great. I'm in. Go on.
Because I realized the game itself is pretty simple.
Yeah.
Unlike other games you've covered on this podcast where there's no story or anything. It just is. It's just an arcade game. So I
Yeah.
noticed on the first level,
Yeah.
if you raise Jetman, his name is, we found out now, right to the top of the screen and float him around the middle, you can't get killed.
Yeah.
So then you've just got to wait for the fuel or whatever to appear, go and grab it, drop it off, and go straight back to the top. So the top of the middle bit is seemed like a safe space for most levels.
It
Not
didn't
all
work
of
for
them.
level 2 because I tried that on level 2 and those things are bouncing up and down.
Yeah, that one. So that level doesn't work so well, but I think it was level 3 when I got to play for about 30 seconds. That trick worked again. The other thing
Okay.
I'd say is I realized afterwards, it took me a while to realize, but you can just hold the shoot button down and he constantly keeps firing.
Right.
That took me a while. At first, I was tapping really hard to like keep doing the shots.
Yeah.
But you can just hold it down. That's not explained anywhere. So
Are you a keyboard or a joystick kind of person?
I did it. To be authentic, I did it on a keyboard on an emulator. I tried to be as authentic as possible to play it. I did try. I then saw that it was on. Look, being the sort of person I tried it on all of them. I tried it on BBC, Spectrum, and a few others just to get the overall feeling. I think the Spectrum one is probably the best one.
Okay.
Sadly, I did want it to be the BBC one because I knew you'd have something to celebrate.
Thank you.
But yes, no. Apart from that, I haven't really got anything else to say about it except that it's incredibly frustrating, but in the best possible way. Where you just want to. It's got. I hate this phrase, but just that one last go. Sort of appeal to it, and I think it's a classic game.
I have 2 final questions. They ban gaming. It's illegal. It's outlawed. All the machines and all of the discs and everything are destroyed. You can have nothing more to do with it. What is Faith going to do?
Oh wow! I'm going to be watching a lot more like 1920s German expressionist movies and study those instead.
Wow. Okay.
Like Metropolis.
We're in the Metropolis top.
Yeah.
And final question. I asked, we're living in a different world, right? I interview comedians and stuff for Radio 4. We had this comedian on and I said, right, if people want to find out more about you, Steve, I said he was called Steve, where do they go? He went, just Google me. I was like, that's what people do now. They don't necessarily have websites. However, I'm going to try the question with you. The answer, Retro Faith, might be Google. If people want to find out more about you, where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, I've got kind of the persona of Retro Faith, which if you Google Retro Faith, it will come up with everything like Twitter,
good name to
streams
have.
and stuff. Yeah, but I also as a serious, I'll put that in the most air bubble way I can. I'm a serious games journalist. You'll find me on on the BBC and Retro Gamer magazine and other bits and places. But if you type in Retro Faith, you kind of find most of my stuff. And go from there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed this, and it was lovely to see JetPac. A real surprise. You suggested it, but I had a fun 25 minutes playing it. If you're listening to this, if you just type it in, you can play it on the PC. And I had a lot of fun. So Faith, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, wonderful. Thank you very much. I've had real fun today.
Thank you very much for watching or listening. It's time to thank my Patreons from the £8.50 tier upwards. If you want to get your name read out, if you want to get the podcast advert free before it gets released to the general public, then go to patreon.com/Iain Lee, IAINLEE. This week we are thanking Craig Hannon, Sam Hughes, Harsh Singh, Martin Warren, and of course, executive producer Matt Stanley Evans. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you if you're just watching this. It's really appreciated. And Big Boy the Cat says thank you as well. Cheers.